What is going on, Notre Dame football fans? I'm Tyler Horka. That's Jack Sobel with blueandgold.com, Blue and Gold Illustrated, outside of Notre Dame Stadium, where the Fighting Irish, 14 days until they kick off against the Texas A&M Aggies in College Station, Texas, held a jersey scrimmage today, Jack. The offense won 42-40. The score, Marcus Freeman basically said he doesn't even really know how it comes to be. The glaring point in that is that the offense won. Riley Leonard obviously probably having a lot to do with that. We didn't get to watch the jersey scrimmage, so everything that we know about it came from Marcus Freeman, Mike Denbrock, and Al Golden today. We talked to all three of those guys. But like I said, Riley Leonard having a big part of it. What did we learn about Riley Leonard from Marcus Freeman today, Jack?
Honestly, nothing we didn't already know. Riley Leonard, Marcus Freeman was asked if he's ready to name a starter. He just said, look, Riley Leonard's gotten all the reps with the ones. I think at this point that's probably the best we're going to get in terms of naming a starting quarterback. It doesn't seem like there's going to be a big QB1 announcement, but it's going to be Riley Leonard. It's pretty clear. At this point, it's been clear for months, but it's clearer at this point that Riley Leonard is going to go out as QB1 against Texas A&M. And in the scrimmage, Marcus Freeman mentioned that the defense got 2 turnovers, but they both came against the third-team offense, which is some combination of Kenny Minchie and C.J. Carr. So the first team and second team led by Steve Angeli, no turnovers, great sign. And Freeman also said where the offense and Riley Leonard specifically have improved the most since the start of fall camp, the operation is much cleaner, not as many false starts, delay of games. Mike Denbrock talked about the motion being much more cleaner and purposeful. He said it was basically a disaster in spring ball. Love talking to Denbrock. He can be very, very blunt. Have a lot of great energy there. But no, it seems like a lot of positives from the scrimmage today. The offense regained the blue jerseys.
Yeah, so I thought the irony in what Denbrock said today was Marcus Freeman gets up and he said this was the best jersey scrimmage that I've ever seen since I've been at Notre Dame. Obviously, he's going into his 3rd season as head coach and 4th season overall with the Fighting Irish. Best jersey scrimmage that he's ever seen. Al Golden gets up there. His unit loses. He echoes Freeman. He said, I saw a lot of really good things. We're able to rotate in guys at all 3 levels. We'll get to more on that in a second, Jack. Mike Denbrock gets up there. He's the 3rd guy to speak, and he says, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Here's some of that blunt nature that you were alluding to. I didn't like what I saw from the jersey scrimmage today. His unit, as we just said, won the blue jerseys back. So interesting that I wouldn't call him a perfectionist, but boy, is he demanding, and he wants a lot out of his group. So some other things that we learned about the offense. Let's stick with that. Less about Denbrock, more about the guys that he's working with. Let's go to the offensive line, Jack. That's been the talk of the town in Notre Dame fall camp for the last week and a half now. What do we know about the guys up front? Who's potentially starting at Texas A&M?
Well, they haven't named the starting 5 yet, which is significant because they talked all offseason about the need to do that sooner than later, or as soon as they can. Mm-hmm. They don't want to rush it, which is why they haven't yet. But continuity and communication and chemistry on that among those front 5, I should say, very important. But they did say they're considering a number of factors. A couple of things that stuck out was that the pressure of playing against this A&M front and at this stadium is very much a factor. The idea that some of these younger guys might be better week 5 or 6 than they are in week 1, and that might change who the best 5 are. That's a factor. But Mike Denbrock confirmed that Anthony Knapp and Sam Pendleton, a freshman and sophomore at left tackle and left guard, have earned the right to compete for these jobs. And kind of reading into this, what we're kind of hearing is that Pendleton and Knapp have performed the best at those positions with Jagasaw out, but the coaching staff is kind of deciding whether or not they can trust them in that A&M environment. Again, that's not what they said. That's just kind of where we read into this.
Oh, I completely agree with that. And I don't want to keep bringing up 2021, but it's going to be another one of those situations where what is the best starting 5 right now this week? And Tosh Baker could still be that answer for week 1 if Marcus Freeman, Mike Denbrock, Joe Rudolph, if they all get together and say, okay, who are we playing against in terms of experience and the potential and what the Texas A&M pass rushers can do, if we want an experienced guy ourselves to go against that, you might see Tosh Baker in the Texas A&M game. But based on what we're seeing, and like you said, we might see Anthony Knapp in that Texas A&M game as well. If things don't go well in that first half, Marcus Freeman says it all the time. You only get 12 guaranteed opportunities, I should say. This is one of them. You've got to juggle and you've got to kind of react and have contingency plans. And I think that's what Notre Dame has been doing in fall camp, figuring out those contingency plans.
There's a lot. Honestly, my main takeaway from this press conference was like there's a lot that Notre Dame has done in fall camp with A&M and how important this game is and the environment that they're about to go in. Like Mike Denbrock talked about, kind of adjusting the offensive game plan with the knowledge that they're not going to be able to hear anything at Kyle Field.
He had a lot of words for Kyle Field. Loud, chaotic, hornet's nest, I believe, were some of those.
Yeah, and Al Golden on the other side, like we asked him about rotating 5 linebackers, and he's like, not just at linebackers, like at every position group, it's a pod of players. I think was the word he used, that need to be ready because they need to rotate guys in that what we're expecting, I think, to be 95-degree heat in College Station.
My family lives in Texas. I think it's 105 this week, so hopefully it cools off a little bit in the next 2 weeks, but you never know, man. It might be triple digits that day, and like you said, 90s that night.
So like when we talk about the competitions between like a Don Schuler and Rod Hurd, and Christian Gray and Jaden Mickey, the 5 linebackers, the 12 defensive linemen that once Gabriel Rubio is healthy, that they've said they might be comfortable with, like they're going to need all those guys in College Station because they can't just stick with 11 guys and play them like they would an October game at Notre Dame Stadium.
Absolutely. So let's go back to Golden's group. We talked a lot about Denbrock's group. What did you learn from him in the press conference today? I think the most interesting thing was playing with pods and whatnot. But another thing was, and again, I guess I will bring this back to Denbrock, he kind of lit up and you could see on his face when he was asked about going against Mike Denbrock's offense every single day. I think those two guys really like the challenge of, I mean, they've been at this for a long time, both college for Golden, college and NFL, and for Denbrock, all over the college game. It seems like they really enjoy the back and forth that they have in practices.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame's got a really good group of coordinators, or pair of coordinators, I should say, and I think both coordinators recognize that. Denbrock's offense is going to be hard to defend for a few reasons. Number one, Riley Leonard, the way he can beat you with his arms and his legs. Talented running back room, an offensive line that is young. It could be very young week 1. It probably will be by midseason, at least from what we can read into it. But, I mean, it's a talented group, a group of wide receivers that when we asked Mike Denbrock about it was like, there's probably not one alpha guy, like a bona fide number 1 wide receiver, but there are a lot of guys who can beat you in a lot of ways. And, there are 2 outcomes when an offensive coordinator makes a statement like that preseason. Number 1 is that, he's just kind of trying to dress over the fact that the receiver room's weak.
Right.
Number 2 is that it's a really good, diverse group of guys that might not have a guy go over 800 yards, but is going to have a bunch of guys go over 500. And honestly, the vibe I'm getting from this group and from what we've seen in practice, it's the latter. I think it's going to be a good group.
Yeah, and Denbrock kind of alluded to that he knows he hasn't been here the last couple of seasons, but he knows the narrative that Notre Dame has just had a heck of a time trying to figure out the wide receiver position, and he's trying to rectify that. And he inherits this personnel, right? There's only so much he can do, and he coaches the tight ends, which I want to talk about them in a moment, but he also sees what's going on every single day, and I think he sees a group that probably is unlike the previous couple that Notre Dame has had. So, again, on the tight ends, Mitchell Evans did not participate in today's Jersey scrimmage. That's kind of been status quo for him. We see him moving great without a knee brace in individual drills, routes on air. It looks like he's fine. They're just holding him out of these 11-on-11 contact where he can take contact. You don't want him to take a lot because, that can be a detriment to that healing knee of his. If this was Texas A&M game day, he would have been playing. Same thing with Howard Cross. Held out on the defensive side of the ball. He's dealing with that hamstring. If today was Texas A&M game day, he would have played. Chance Tucker went down with a lower body injury undisclosed in today's Jersey scrimmage, but that was really kind of the only health concern that Marcus Freeman gave us today. This team is at a really healthy spot, Jack. How much do you think that is beneficial to Notre Dame going into A&M in 2 weeks?
Oh, it's huge, and I think they're being smart about it too, like holding we've seen Benjamin Morrison, and we've heard that he's doing everything. They're comfortable with him really being a full participant. But, being very cautious with Howard Cross in his 6th fall camp, with Mitchell Evans. They know what he can do. They're going to be cautious with him. And I think, we see a lot of training camp injuries around the country. A&M isn't immune. They lost one of their running backs, Reuben Owens, I want to say. So, I mean, it affects everyone, and it looks like, knock on wood, Notre Dame is going to be pretty healthy heading into that A&M game.
Let's finish this with who we started with today, Marcus Freeman. Is there anything that you can think of from his press conference today that we haven't talked about, that needs to be talked about? I know we heard a lot from Al Golden and Mike Denbrock, but anything that kind of you left that press conference saying, yeah, that's kind of a striking point?
Certainly a lot to take in. I think the offensive line points, I mean, that's certainly what he was asked about the most, was the most interesting. I did ask him who has stepped up as someone who might not be a starter but can really rush the passer on third downs. The name he mentioned was Boubacar Traore. Yep. He's going the sophomore wearing number 5. He switched from 51. Is going to have a big role on defense this year. I think we've kind of assumed that over the offseason, but hearing it straight up from Freeman is significant. I mean, it's, in terms of specifics, got to go back through the transcript. I mean, it was a lot. We had a lot of good information today, and you can read about it in the next 24 to 48 hours on blueandgold.com.
Yeah, that full transcript will be at blueandgold.com, and I guess I'll kind of end it on a light note. I think one of the funnier parts of the press conference today, as it starts to rain here in South Bend, we're going to get out of here. Marcus Freeman asked about Jaden Thomas comparing Riley Leonard to both Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, and all Marcus Freeman could do was kind of laugh, and he says, I don't think that Riley Leonard is Lamar Jackson, NFL MVP Lamar Jackson, but he is all we need. And I sat there thinking, all right, that's Notre Dame's QB1, even if Marcus Freeman or anyone else in the Notre Dame room will not say it explicitly. So that is QB1. That's Jack Sobel. I'm Tyler Horka. We're blueandgold.com, Blue and Gold Illustrated.